So yeah, welcome everybody to Galactic Quest, where we have the very lofty goal of decoding the cosmos with artificial intelligence. We've assembled a stellar group of panelists for you today to discuss how AI-driven discoveries are about to accelerate our understanding of the universe. And all of this is going to happen right here at UT at a newly formed research institute that everybody here on this stage is very excited about. So I guess for a bit of introduction, my name is Josh Taylor. You'll have to excuse my frog voice. I'm having a very bad breakup with the cold. But I'm a postdoc in the astronomy department. I work on mostly trying to find meaningful signal, keyword meaningful, in the very large, very noisy data sets that astronomers use to study star formation. So I guess, Stella, would you like to?
Yeah. So we have a few slides. We'll see if there it goes. OK. So by trade, I am a computational astrophysicist. So I basically model with very big computers the star formation process. You can see one of the simulations is going there. So in my work, I try to answer questions like, what sets the mass of stars? How do stars interact with their environment? So stars, for example, have winds and radiation and mass outflows, and this actually shapes their birth environment. And the last part of what I do, and have been really focused on recently, has been to use machine learning to try to better analyze astronomy data. And often I will be using simulations like this one to produce training sets to train these algorithms to find features or classify things. So this movie here is showing a forming star cluster and those jets coming out. That's the feedback interacting with the gas. So you can just get a sense for how complex this process is, all the physics in there, all the mess, should we say, which is in there, which makes this a very rich problem for AI analysis. And then I have, in the next slide, an example of what we can do with AI. There we go, one more. OK. Yeah, so in this movie, this is actual real astronomy data. And it is showing spectral lines. And that red thing on there is a bubble that has been identified by a machine learning algorithm. So we train it on simulations like you just saw. And then we give it actual real astronomy data. And we basically ask it to find features that we can't otherwise find easily by eye. So here's an example of it finding this shell-like features, picking out on a pixel-by-pixel basis what that feedback feature is. I think we can move on to Matt. There we go.
Just say a quick 30 seconds about the Institute overall?
Yes.
Yeah. Great. So hi, thanks. Welcome, everyone. So super quick, maybe introduction for the whole thing. So we just launched this 5-year AI Institute for cosmology we're all super excited about. Stella is the director, so she's the big boss. I'm the co-director. Arya is a co-PI. So we're just getting off the ground. So our broad thing is we're trying to advance both artificial intelligence and cosmology. So Stella and Arya know something about astronomy. I'm learning. I'm a computer scientist by training, so we're kind of a hopefully tag team together in this way. So quickly about myself. I'm a professor in the School of Information. I'm also on the leadership of Good Systems, which we'll hear about in the next panel after this in the same room. Broadly, my research is at the intersection of artificial intelligence and human-computer interaction. So not just how do we make the AI models that are very accurate in their predictions, but how do we think about designing good interfaces, good interactions between AI and humans such that they can partner well together? Like should you know when you can trust an AI output or not? And that will play out a little bit in our institute as well. And then I try to apply this to consequential problems like reducing polarization or hate speech or fake news online. So I want to make a quick connection between what we're doing in Good Systems and what we're doing here in the institute. So with Good Systems, we think it's really important in designing responsible AI. You can't do this in a vacuum. You really need to ground it in societal challenges that are consequential. So I'm leading a particular project where we're looking at fake news, disinformation, misinformation, conflicting information, all these challenges we have of knowing what's real today. And we want to look at the way in which AI is contributing to the problem, but also which AI can help solve that problem for all of us. But we're doing this in the context of trying to advance responsible AI. So we want to have AI that in general is more fair, that is more explainable, interpretable, transparent. And we're using this challenge problem to drive fundamental advances in AI. And that's what we're going to try to do in the Institute as well. Just waiting for a slide to advance, but we skipped one. Oh, is my third slide not there? Yeah. OK, great. So broadly, what we're doing in the Institute and in Good Systems is what we call use-inspired research. So we're taking a problem that really matters, an area that matters, in this case, cosmology, and we want to figure out where are the gaps in AI such that we can go and fix those gaps in AI, advance AI in general, and then drive that back to drive advances in the cosmology itself. So it's going to be a win-win for both cosmology and for AI at the end of the day. Arya.
All right, thank you, Matt. Does it work? All right, so my name is Arya Farahi, and I'm an assistant professor in the Statistics and Data Sciences department. I'm sitting somewhere between Matt and Stella. I know a little bit of astronomy, but I'm mostly a computational scientist. So what we are doing, we are developing the statistical method, computational tools tailored for applications in astronomy, and the other half of our lab is developing methods and tools to help AI to support evidence-based decision-making. So I'm part of the leadership team for the CosmicAI. We have 4 different working groups. Each one of these working groups focus on one of the fundamental questions in astronomy and in the AI. Specifically, our working group, it is focused on explainable AI. I'm also part of a couple of international collaborations, specifically the ones that I'm super excited about. It is called the DREAMS project. It is a partnership between us, University of Texas at Austin, MIT, Princeton, University of Virginia, and University of New Mexico. So this project, it is started in the December of 2023, and then CosmicAI came along, and we partnered with the CosmicAI. And in this project, we are specifically designing the whole project to address one of the oldest problems in astronomy. So if you are following the astronomy news, we know there is such a thing as a dark matter. Since 1930, when the first evidence of dark matter came along, there have been a growing number of evidences that there should be this mysterious matter in the universe. We know how it is interacting gravitation with other material, but the problem is that it's still the particle nature of dark matter. It is completely mysterious to us. We don't know how many species of dark matter we have. We don't know whether they are interacting with each other or not. We don't know whether they are interacting with the baryonic or normal matter that we are seeing around us. And because we cannot detect them in the lab, it is one of the hardest. It has turned out to be one of the hardest problems in astronomy. So what we are trying to do here, actually, there is no lack of theoretical models. If you go to arXiv, every day there is a new theoretical model proposed by the theorists. So what we are trying to do here, we are taking all these theoretical models, we put them into the computer simulations to generate realistic-looking maps and observables of the skies. So here what you are looking at images of 2 galaxies. One on the top, it is simulated in a universe with a cold dark matter. It is a popular model of dark matter. And in the bottom, you are looking at the image of the same galaxy, but simulated in a universe with a warm dark matter. So if you look at these images, you see the image of the same galaxy. We are looking at the density distribution. We are looking at the gas distribution and stellar distribution. And if you look at the images carefully, you can distinguish between these 2 images. But the problem is that we don't have such a resolution in the observational data. And we are looking at a very large number of galaxies in the observational data. So the goal is to generate a very large number of simulations, and from this simulation, identify features that can allow us to discriminate between different model classes, and hopefully telling something meaningful about the particle nature of dark matter. And based on what we have learned from the simulation, we are developing AI tools to do the backward inference, going from the observational data and learning about the particle nature of dark matter. But the problem is that the AI in the past couple of years, it is mostly focused on enhancing efficiency, making them faster, making them more precise, making them more accurate, making them more robust. But as astronomers, we are not very interested in making prediction. 10 million years from now, what is happening to the universe? We don't care about it. We only care about the question of how and why the universe is how the universe is working, why the galaxies are forming in the way that we are seeing them on the sky, why we have 2 populations of galaxies. So really, we want to take these black box models, these very sophisticated artificial intelligence model, and trying to interpret them and trying to explain them. And At the end, we are trying to answer one of the key questions that astronomers are interested about: how the galaxies are formed, how they are evolving, and how they are growing, and connect it back to the properties of dark matter. And hopefully, by the end of this program, we are going to solve one of the mysteries in astronomy.
Okay, so I've prepared a few questions for our distinguished guests, and then after we chat up here, then perhaps we'll open up to audience questions if we have time. But piggybacking on just what Arya was talking about, so science is really the business of understanding, right? But AI models are typically not the easiest things to understand. How important do you think it is to fully understand the model in order to use it to do good science? I mean, can you still do good science if you don't fully understand the AI model?
Well, it depends on the question of what you mean by good. But astronomers, at the end of the day, they are very interested. You can ask Stella. I'm not an astronomer. I'm a statistician. But they are very interested to tell a story about their data. You are seeing a data, and you are interested to say, oh, these are the rules and the fundamental rules that are governing the dynamics of this system. If you are looking at the population of galaxies, where they are coming from, how they have been grown, how they have been formed. And if you take different models, they are going to make a different prediction. So really, we want to build this mapping function from our theoretical understanding to the equations that are governing the dynamics of the universe to the observables that we are seeing. So we can close this loop and telling a very nice story, actually a causal story about how the universe is working. And without telling that very interesting story, I don't think as astronomers we have too much to say about 10 million years from now.
I think when we talk about transparent AI, explainable AI, interpretable AI, there's lots of debate about what sorts of transparency we really need and why. So, if you drove here today, probably most of you don't understand the details of how the carburetor or other parts of your pistons work in your engine. I'll admit I don't. But I still am able to operate the car just fine and drive and get around. Here's another analogy. We talk to one another. I talked to Arya today. I don't know how the neurons are connected in his brain. I don't know how they're firing. I don't know how all of that wetware is working, in his brain. But still, we're able to work together, to talk, to do meaningful things together. So I think we're trying to figure out in research on transparent AI, what's the right level of transparency need? What's enough? Like, I need to know, for instance, can I trust this model? When is it reliable? When is it not? When do I need to probe further? How can I sort of partner the best it has to offer in terms of speed and scalability with sort of my own experience and wisdom? So I think we're still trying to really figure that out. But definitely, I don't think we need full transparency because we don't have it today and so many other things we're effective in.
Yeah, I can add to that, like the James Webb Space Telescope. So astronomers use these really amazing instruments, but only a very small fraction are involved with building them and maintaining them and really understanding how they work. And so the car analogy really is a good one. So it's not important that you as an individual understand everything about the telescope you're using or about the model you're applying, but it's important that somebody does, right? And so this is why we have these collaborations between computer scientists like Matt, statisticians like Arya, and astronomers, is because working together, we really have a good sense of the big picture, and that gives us confidence that when we build and apply these AI models, that we're able to do good science with them.
Are there any particular areas of astronomy that you think provide really exciting or challenging applications for AI methods? Stella gave us an example of her wind bubble. But any favorites come to mind?
Well, I can start out and say in astronomy, we're calling this the big data era, just because we have these very large telescopes coming online that are producing huge data sets. For example, we have these radio telescopes where they're adding antennas, and at the end of this expansion, you're basically going to have data products that don't fit on laptops. And so there's a data delivery problem, not just in collecting the data, but then in delivering useful data to the astronomer who's trying to analyze it. So this means that we need methods that can sort through data very quickly, identifying interesting aspects of it, identify problems very quickly, because if there's something wrong with your observing pipeline, you want to know it before you move the telescopes around to look at something else. And so there's a huge amount of very rich things that AI can help us to do, which right now, some of which we're just doing by eye, where there's humans in the loop, where they're looking at, an observation is taken, and then someone's actually looking at it to see, okay, does it look good? Is there a problem with it? And so we really want to be more efficient about that.
Well, for me, the most exciting part of astronomy is the multimodality. When we are thinking about astronomy, really we can scan the entire observable sky across different wavelengths, from a very high energy wavelength to the very low energy wavelength. We have different telescopes with different properties, different levels of noise with different depth. Some of them look at the early universe, some of them are looking at the late universe. And very recently with the gravitational wave observatories, we ushered a new era of listening to the cosmos as well. So we have all these multimodal data are coming at the different frequency with the very different properties. How to combine them very effectively to make an inference and trying to extract as much as information that exists in the data is a very exciting time for all of us.
So I'm not an astronomer, nor will I pretend to be one on stage. But let me tell you about what I'm most excited about in AI in this work. So I think we're seeing generative AI, large language models, co-pilots, increasingly disrupting a lot of the ways we do things, and in exciting ways. When we search on the web, we have generated results. When we go to write a document, we might get suggestions from our co-pilot. We're thinking more about how co-pilots can be used to sort of accelerate, change, improve all kinds of information work being done today. So what does this mean for science? What are all the steps? What are all the kinds of bits of work that scientists have to do to make discoveries? Where are there opportunities for AI to help accelerate that work or to increase the creativity, maybe generate more ideas, to conduct more experiments faster? So we're partnering with the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence to develop a new generative AI co-pilot as part of this institute, really focused on accelerating discovery in cosmology in particular, but as the nature of our institute for AI in general. So we want to help accelerate science at large and thinking about the role of co-pilots in that. So that's what I'm particularly excited about.
Do you think there are any, maybe Matt, this is more for you, any particular ethical concerns for AI in astronomy, or benefits, perhaps, about this domain relative to others?
Sure. Well, when Director Offner first reached out to me about this opportunity to be involved in the Institute, one of the things we talked a lot about was, when we train generative AI, we need lots of data for them to learn from. And often when we train them on the web, they pick up some stuff that's not so good. So a lot of the work that's happening right now with large language models is how to make sure they produce outputs that are okay, that aren't offensive, or that aren't telling us things that are inappropriate in various ways. In the context of science or astronomy, we're training this co-pilot on lots and lots of research that's been published in astronomy. There's not a lot of this kind of problem that we have there, so it's very clean data for us to do this kind of research and thinking about building a co-pilot in this context. A lot of work I do also outside of this institute is with good systems where we are thinking about information integrity online, misinformation, disinformation, conflicting information. We know there's all kinds of debates around science and misinformation, whether we're talking about climate change or vaccines or anything like that. So certainly we can imagine connections here to astronomy as well, but they're a little bit probably more distant. I don't think too many of us are afraid that the moon is really made of blue cheese, and it's going to fall on us tomorrow.
Well, for me, so how many of you have seen the Biden-Harris executive order on the artificial intelligence? Maybe some of you. So if you look at that executive order, they are focusing on 3 key terms. One is security, one is the safety, and the other one is trustworthiness. Fortunately, when you are thinking about astronomy, we don't have problem about security. Whenever we are collecting data, after 1 year, all the data have to become publicly available. We don't have any, concerns about safety of this, data set. We are looking at the galaxy's population, gas, CMB, but we don't have any concern that they are going to harm anyone. So really, these are not the questions that we are interested. So we can focus on, trustworthiness. It's still the trustworthiness and creating, trust between the astronomers who are using, traditional techniques and trying to make a scientific discovery, and people who are doing advanced, computational tools. It is extremely important. And really, with the CosmicAI, we are trying to address one of these key challenges: how we can build the trust, how we can quantify the trust, and how we can understand the trust. And hopefully, we are going to solve one of these, points on this triangle.
So are there any Arya talked a little bit about this, but Stella, maybe you have some favorite discoveries that you're hoping to uncover inside CosmicAI about the universe?
Yeah, I think there's a huge possibility for new discoveries in astronomy. As I mentioned, this is the big data revolution. So this means there's all kinds of things in the data that we have yet to discover. And I have to say that AI is already being used to discover new things. For example, discover new exoplanets, planets outside our own solar system. Some of these planets are very difficult to detect against the very bright star, their very bright host star. And so people are using these AI models to dig down into the data, find these faint signals, and actually discover new planets. And I think that is just super exciting, and we're really just getting started on this. And so there'll be a lot of different things like that where we'll be finding signals that we didn't predict. We'll be able to dig down and study galaxies much better. And in my domain, we're always trying to understand how stars interact with their surroundings and do this and figure out what the implications are from galaxy scales all the way down to that planet scale.
But probably for me, it is dark matter, dark matter, dark matter.
Do you think that some of the AI developments that will happen inside CosmicAI have applicability to other domains or will benefit sort of AI in general, not just focused on astronomy?
Absolutely. So if you are thinking about most of the natural sciences, even medical sciences and biological sciences, in many cases, whenever you are not trying to make a prediction or decision making or resource allocation, you are trying to do a hardcore science. At the end of the day, you are very interested to answer the question of how and why. And all the tools and methods that we are developing as a part of the explainable AI can be very easily, translated to other domains and readapted and repurposed to other domains to make, help them to use AI and make a scientific discovery.
I think you've heard my pitch, co-pilots for science at large.
And maybe a last question from me, and then we can turn to audience questions. But there's generally a pretty steep learning curve with sort of building, deploying, using AI models in practice, right? Do you have any plans inside CosmicAI to maybe help democratize the use of this just for astronomy research in general? Or, I mean, these are hard things to get up and running, and if you don't have resources or know-how or whatever, you might be left in the dust, the cosmic dust.
I'm good at quick off-the-cuff comments while my smarter colleagues think of better things to say. So we are really, truly blessed at UT Austin with the Texas Advanced Computing Center, which has world-class. We just launched the Leadership Class Computing Facility, a $500 million grant from the National Science Foundation. So they're doing tremendous things to open that up. We have the new Center for Generative AI that's providing a tremendous amount of compute resources. In addition to that, in this institute in particular, I mentioned we're partnering with the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence, AI2. So one of the great concerns right now in the field of artificial intelligence is maybe you can't play in it anymore unless you're a big corporation with lots of money. And there are things like cloud compute resources that help with that, but it still is really challenging. So AI2 is working with potentially the National Science Foundation, but in general, trying to be a resource like this for academics in AI research at large, trying to really make sure that the generative AI research remains open source, open to the community, that we know the foundation on which our discoveries are being made. So I think that's one of the things that's really exciting about thinking about open science. But it's definitely a challenging time for those of us who do AI research for really trying to look at where can we make the best contributions, maybe what are the problems that the big companies aren't going to think about that we can do that are really matter or that are consequential to society. What are the problems we get to think about that are farther out than the companies that just have a shorter term deadline? So I think that's one way I think we're thinking about making AI more open and accessible. And otherwise, I think we're going to continue to do open source. And with tools like co-pilots, increasingly we have zero code, no code solutions to empower anyone to be able to do things, whether or not you can program at all.
Yeah, I would just add, I think there's 3 axes to be able to participate in this AI revolution. The first one is compute, as Matt mentioned, and we are super lucky to be here in Texas and have access to TAC, which is a national facility, and we're able to basically build resources that we can open up to the whole national community just by using and building on what we have available here. But the other 2 are data and knowledge, right? And so astronomy is a really amazing space for AI, in part because our data is just so open. It's publicly available. Any one of you could go to our archives and find your favorite astronomy object and download data on it. There's no impediment to you doing that. The only impediment is knowledge, right, which is the third part. And we have that barrier within AI and machine learning as well. And so part of our mission in CosmicAI Institute is to basically work to educate people, to create resources starting at K through 12 to undergraduate, summer and winter schools to teach these methods, to graduate level education, master's level courses, and really create a nexus of educational resources that people can come and learn all these things that will let them to really participate in all these exciting things that are happening.
Well, I think Stella mentioned everything. We have this triangle: education, computing, and data. And really, as a part of the institute, we are focusing on all these nodes in the triangle. Matt talked about computing. Stella talked a little bit about data part. So I want just to mention that we partner with 2 national labs which are collecting radio astronomy data, optical data. Here on the campus, we have a head desk which is collecting spectroscopic data. So we are trying to bring all of them together under the same platform so everyone has access to them. On top of that, we are running the largest simulations, and we are producing a lot of data from the numerical simulation. And we are hoping to bring all these resources to the community so people in the community can use the copilots and no coding skills, so they are able to talk to the data, generate codes, and make scientific discoveries.
Since Stella mentioned outreach, quick additional comment. The computer scientists will tell you something about astronomy for a minute. We're doing not only outreach, but inreach, trying to teach ourselves a little bit about what we do. And so Stella gave me a fantastic book recommendation, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry, which has been super fun to read about. So that's my recommendation for anybody who wants to start, just dipping their toe and learning a little bit about this cosmology stuff, which is pretty cool.
As a statistician who has gone to these archives that Stella talks about and downloaded data, it is a little bit intimidating without the knowledge part of the triangle, I will say. Okay, so are there audience questions maybe? We'll turn.
Oh, I was just interested in kind of maybe getting a little bit of color on how inaccuracies in techniques like spatial decomposition kind of play into the training of these classification models. Since I know like classification as a task has for a very long time produced good accuracy, but kind of with good data.
So I'll give the vague response, and they can say smarter things. One of the really things we are seeing is sort of a paradigm shift with generative AI is we were very good at building very specialized models for a long time. So here's a task of interest, get data about that task, train a specific model for that task, get accuracy on that task. But we were very bad at doing generalization. One of the things we're seeing broadly across the work right now in generative AI is a single model can be used for 30, 60, 100 different tasks. And it may not do as well as something that's really focused on that one thing, but that's usually the place we start now, because that sort of gives us a really strong baseline that takes, again, one bit of engineering effort can be used for lots of different things. And then if that's not good enough, then we fine tune in particular areas for specific needs. Now, do you guys want to say anything smarter about the astronomy?
Yeah, I don't know about smarter, but yeah, so in terms of working on classification of features or identification of outliers, for me, the main thing is just testing. So just really making sure that your training data is as good as you can make it and as close as possible to observational data that you're trying to work with. Astronomy, like many fields, has a problem with ground truth labels. So, historically what people have done to create training data for classification, say of bubbles, is they basically have people like you, log into an online app and then actually identify things by eye. Like that's kind of the state of the art without AI. And so we can improve upon this by using simulations, where in the simulations we do have the ground truth because we know everything about it. And then the challenge is to map that simulation into that domain of astronomy that you're trying to classify things within. And that's non-trivial because you have noise effects, you have radiation transfer effects because you're modeling photons. So there's complications, but I think we're doing pretty well given all the challenges we have with messy data.
So if you're looking for a very interesting project, one of our working group, it is Explorable Universe. So in the Explorable Universe, we are, or maybe Observable Universe, sorry, I'm not part of that working group. But in the Observable Universe, we are looking at the data that is collected by the radio astronomy. So in the radio astronomy, whenever you are thinking about, multidimensional data or, high dimensional data, high dimensional feature, really multi-astronomy pushing it to the extreme. We have, billions of pixels in just one observation. We have a very, large number of observations. Every second they are taking a new observation. We have an array of, radio, telescope, which each one of them, they are collecting data. It is extremely low signal to noise measurement. So identifying features that are very interesting in this data, it is very unique, and it's a problem that we have never seen in anywhere else. So if you're looking for a very exciting project, probably this is going to be one of the most exciting ones.
Similar question, which was sort of where to start in terms of training models, training on the simulations or training on the data. That is, I can by eye pick out Aria's simulations and say those look different to me, right? And so they seem unique enough that you might be able to tell the difference in some observable and say it goes with this simulation or that simulation. But have you looked at, say, real data on high redshift galaxies and say our models will have to be this different for us to be able to distinctly tell things? Or, I mean, I guess at some point you have to decide how different to do the simulations, and you could make them wildly different such that you're not close to reality at all and you find nothing in the real universe. Or you have them so similar that there's too much noise in the actual data to ever be able to pick it out. So how do you sort of decide in terms of what level of distinction or precision you can get to? Is it based on what you can see in the data, or is it trying to narrow down what you're thinking about in simulation?
Well, yeah, I would say this is not about galaxies, but actually the whole challenge of trying to make your training set look like the real data, you learn physics. In a recent project, we were trying to create this training set that would match these local molecular clouds. We observed them in the infrared. The infrared emission is basically emission from dust grains. And so we would take, state-of-the-art dust models and try and use that to post-process it and create the match, and we couldn't do it. So we were learning through the process, this dust model that people came up with, that's not really a good representation of reality. And so there is some trial and error, and you have to go back and say, all right, we've identified areas where we're not actually matching the underlying real data very well, and that tells us something about physics.
So probably, we have three main or fundamental AI questions we are trying to answer through the CosmicAI. One of them was the explainable AI. The other one, how to work with the high dimensional, high density, low signal to noise measurement. So the other problem that we are trying to address, which might be connected to the question that you are asking, is how to quantify the level of uncertainty, especially when the data that you are simulating on is extremely different from the data that you are seeing on the observable sky. And how to, trying to do this transformation from the simulated data to the observational data and accurately and precisely quantifying the level of your uncertainty. It is one of the open questions that we are hoping to answer in the next 5 years.
Do we have time for one more?
Thank you for inspiring talk. So in the intersection between AI and astronomy, it's very exciting. And on the other hand, the interaction between AI and human is fascinating. So my question is, so could you let us know any insights or perspectives how humanity and AI could be connected by AI?
Could you clarify human and AI what?
Human and AI, human and the universe and human connection. I mean.
So I didn't understand.
Okay, so the CosmicAI focuses on AI and astronomy and cosmology, right? And on the other hand, there is an intensive research field to study interaction between the AI and human. So my question is how the human and the universe or cosmology, astronomy can be connected more closely.
Yeah, I'll take a shot and then see if any others have something, again, better to say. So in general, we are thinking a lot about what the partnership or relationship looks like between humans and AI when they work together. Terminology you'll hear people talk about is human in the loop or human AI teaming. And I always think of examples like, when I sit down and search with Google, Google's really good at failing quickly, which is to say, I'll enter my first query, I don't get the search results I want very quickly, and I know how to adapt my query and play with it to try to get to the search results I want. So you have a good sort of complementary relationship when AI is fast and scalable and fails quickly, and then I can use sort of my ingenuity to sort of play with it, adjust it, and that's how we get to be sort of good teammates and working together. So I think right now it's sort of an exciting time with generative AI because we have these co-pilots. And even the history of how Microsoft came up with that name, Copilot, is really interesting for trying to sort of situate, contextualize the role in which AI could help us, but we're not going to trust it to fly the plane on its own. So in the context of science, or astronomy here in particular, we want to have this Copilot for astronomy, but we're really trying to figure out what's the relationship going to look like between the scientist and the AI Copilot. What are the parts of the scientific workflow it can help with? Where can the astronomer hand off work to the AI? Where can it not? When can the astronomer know how to trust the generative AI? Like, we know these models hallucinate things a lot of times that aren't true. When is that a problem? Or when can the human detect it and it will be okay? When would it be all right that maybe if the AI is hallucinating things, it's actually creativity and helping the astronomer think outside the box about ideas that wouldn't have occurred to them otherwise? Could a large language model pretend to be an expert in different aspects of astronomy to help you have a conversation virtually with different personalities to sort of brainstorm or bounce ideas off? I think it's really an exciting time because there's such a broad landscape of things to try and kind of explore what different human-AI interaction paradigms might be. But those are some of the things in my mind. Thank you.
Is that one more question?
Yeah, one.
Okay, so I was wondering, like, specifically the cosmic microwave background, lots of chaotic-looking data, but I know it's been analyzed well for patterns. I was wondering if AI has moved the needle a lot on the current state-of-the-art analyzing the background radiation, the shape of the universe.
Closest to your area. Aria, you can get that one.
This couldn't be asked.
In 30 seconds, go.
So if I want to think about the CMB or cosmic microwave background, really the CMB, it is extremely simple. So really you can start from your differential equation, your favorite model of cosmology, and completely predict what you are going to see in the CMB data. So far we have never seen any type of deviation from the CMB data that is not consistent from what is predicted from our data. And because it is extremely close to the Gaussian fluctuation, everything analytically it is computable. So I'm not sure that how much you are going to gain by applying AI models to the cosmic microwave background, but this is not my field exactly, but I suspect that there are not much to be done just on a cosmic microwave background. But when you combine it with the galaxy population to look for the signals of lensing or looking for the shadows in the cosmic microwave background, probably there are a lot of information to be learned. So again, I go back to the multimodality cosmology. You want to combine this data with other modality, looking at the population of galaxies in different wavelengths, low redshift, high redshift, and hopefully you are going to learn a lot of new things from even cosmic microwave background.
All right, well, I think we can leave people on a join our mission slide, so all the different ways you can get involved. We're going to be doing a variety of events going forward. But if you're around campus, there will be talks, there will be conferences, and we have a web page you can check out with our events. And of course, there'll be education and outreach opportunities. And so I encourage all of you to just follow us and participate in this new initiative. Yes. Yes. Yeah. It should be. I can't see it because it's very tiny on there. Okay. Yeah, we'll fix it.
CosmicAI.org.
CosmicAI.org.
It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Yeah.
The full name does not roll off the tongue.
I guess one other thing just to close up maybe is on the AI side, for those of you who haven't heard, we have this, not we, but the university has this Essentials of AI for Life and Society. I think that's the name of the course. I think Dean Van den Boot had the idea that we should try to think about that everyone needs to have exposure, interest in AI as a student before you leave the institution. And so he got some crazy suckers in a couple of weeks to pretty quickly stand up the first edition of this class last year that's sort of repeating now. But like when you hear us talking about things today like training data and supervised learning and synthetic data and all this stuff, that class is the one that will really sort of provide everyone some exposure to all these concepts. And so we can sort of take you from kind of basics of AI that you get at any teaching institute up to eventually, if you stick with it, pretty advanced stuff that can only happen someplace at a very advanced research university like we have here at UT. So it's a really great opportunity for people who do want to have a little more exposure to AI. Thank you.
Yeah.